The 5-second career. Imagine working your entire life for one shot at the NFL, and it's over before you even break a sweat. That's exactly what happened to Ryan Sutter, a practice squad safety for the Carolina Panthers in 1998. Thanks to a last-minute roster need, Sutter was activated and got his big break. He ran down on the opening kickoff, sprinting full speed toward the returner with one goal in mind: make the tackle. He lunged, collided, and at that exact moment, he blew out his shoulder. Just like that, his NFL career was over in 5 seconds. He never played another down in the league. It's the shortest confirmed playing career in NFL history and a brutal reminder of how cruel the game can be. Most player arrests. 2 players share this infamous title: Adam Pac-Man Jones and Aldon Smith, each with 10 arrests during their careers, and we're not talking about parking tickets or jaywalking. For Pac-Man Jones, the list reads like a rap sheet from a Grand Theft Auto game: public intoxication, disorderly conduct, multiple assault charges, resisting arrest, and even terroristic threatening. But the worst of all is the infamous 2007 Vegas strip club incident, where a fight he incited led to a shooting that paralyzed a man. That alone could have ended most careers. Somehow Jones still managed to bounce between teams, including the Titans, Cowboys, and Bengals, before finally retiring. Aldon Smith's fall from grace is equally tragic. Once one of the most dominant pass rushers in the game with the 49ers, Smith's legal troubles spiraled out of control. DUIs, illegal possession of assault rifles, a false bomb threat at an airport, domestic violence, a hit and run, you name it, he probably got booked for it. Despite multiple second chances, including brief stints with the Raiders and Cowboys, his legal troubles kept dragging him back under. Most arrests by a team. Since the year 2000, no franchise has had more players arrested than the Minnesota Vikings, wrapping up a whopping 60 arrests. That's not just a few rowdy rookies getting caught with open containers, we're talking serious and sustained off-field issues. The Vikings rap sheet includes the infamous Love Boat scandal in 2005, where several players were accused of hiring prostitutes on a charter boat that devolved into chaos, police involvement, and national embarrassment. Then there's the Adrian Peterson child abuse case in 2014, when the star running back was indicted for whipping his 4-year-old son with a switch. And most recently, in 2024, Jordan Addison was arrested for DUI, adding yet another name to the Vikings wall of infamy. Whether it's bad luck, bad scouting, or a cursed locker room, Minnesota has become the unintended poster child for NFL off-field dysfunction. Heaviest player ever. In a league filled with giants, there's always someone bigger, and that someone is Aaron Gibson, the heaviest player in NFL history. Gibson was officially listed at 410 pounds while playing offensive tackle. He was basically a human bulldozer. Coming out of Wisconsin, he was drafted by the Detroit Lions in the first round of the 1999 draft. Standing 6'6" and tipping the scale over 400 pounds, Gibson was supposed to be a once-in-a-generation wall. But instead of dominating the trenches, his weight became a liability. He battled conditioning issues and injuries, bouncing between the Lions, Cowboys, Bears, and Bills before his career fizzled out. Shortest punt ever. It's hard to imagine a worse play for a punter. You're trusted with flipping the field, changing momentum, and then you do the exact opposite. That's exactly what happened to Sean Landeta in the 1985 playoffs when he booted a negative 7-yard punt. Yes, negative yardage. How does that even happen? It was a windy day at Giant Stadium, and Landeta lined up deep in his own territory. As he stepped toward the ball, a gust of wind seemed to interfere with his drop, and he flat out whiffed. The ball rolled a few feet, barely past the line of scrimmage, and was immediately scooped up by the Bears and taken into the end zone. Touchdown, Chicago. The play went down in history as one of the most embarrassing special team blunders ever. Only NFL team to lose to a CFL team. On August 8, 1961, the Hamilton Tiger Cats of the Canadian Football League stunned the Buffalo Bills of the American Football League, beating them 38-21 in what remains the only time a CFL team has ever defeated an NFL or AFL squad. The game was an exhibition, sure, but the Bills were taking it seriously and they still got thumped. The first half was played under Canadian rules, the second half under American rules, but the Tiger Cats handled both just fine. Hamilton's players were sharper, more physical, and better prepared, while the Bills looked completely caught off guard. The loss embarrassed the entire AFL, and the NFL quickly backed away from any future interleague matchups. Since that game, no CFL team has played an NFL team again, meaning this record is essentially unbreakable, mostly because the NFL doesn't want to risk repeating it. Most times traded. Getting traded once is part of the business. Twice could be a scheme fit, but getting traded 4 times starts to raise eyebrows. 3 players have hit that number: Brandon Cooks, Eric Dickerson, and Kiko Alonso, each getting passed under the league like a used copy of Madden. Cooks, a reliable speedster, couldn't seem to stay put. He went from the Saints to the Patriots, then to the Rams, followed by the Texans, and eventually ended up on the Cowboys. Each time, he put up solid numbers, but no team ever truly committed to him long term. Eric Dickerson, despite being a Hall of Fame running back, didn't have much more luck. He was traded from the Rams to the Colts, then to the Raiders, then the Falcons, and finally the Packers, though the last one was voided after he failed a physical. Then there's Kiko Alonso, a linebacker with flashes of potential but constant movement. He went from the Bills to the Eagles, then the Dolphins, then the Saints, and finally the 49ers, though he never played a snap for San Francisco due to injury. Being traded this much might say you're valuable, but it also says nobody's ever really wanted to keep you. Winless 16-game seasons. Only 2 teams in NFL history have gone a full 16-game season without a single win: the 2008 Detroit Lions and the 2017 Cleveland Browns. It's one of those records so bad, teams actively build their rosters just to avoid the shame of being added to the list. The Lions were the first to do it. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Quarterbacks underperforming, coaching meltdowns, and a defense that couldn't stop a nosebleed. They became the first team in league history to finish 0-16, and fans had nothing to cling to except draft pick dreams and sarcastic chants. 9 years later, the Browns followed suit. Cleveland entered 2017 with some optimism, but by the end of the year, they'd lost every single game, and head coach Hugh Jackson had somehow managed a 2-season record of 1-31. Fans wore paper bags, parades were held to mock the season, and the franchise became the butt of every late-night joke. Longest losing streak. Before the Super Bowl even existed, the Chicago Cardinals laid claim to one of the ugliest records in league history, a 29-game losing streak from 1942 to 1945. And while World War II certainly played a part, rosters were depleted and teams had to make do. It doesn't change the fact that the Cardinals were historically bad. The low point came in 1944 when the Cardinals were forced to merge with the Pittsburgh Steelers, forming a hybrid team known as Card Pit. Sports writers mockingly dubbed them the Car Pets because every team walked all over them. The squad went 0-10 and the losing just kept piling up before and after. It wasn't until late 1945 that the Cardinals finally broke the streak with a win over the Chicago Bears. That moment probably felt like a championship to fans who had waited over 3 years for a victory. While the post-merger record for longest losing streak belongs to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who lost 26 straight during the first 2 seasons in the NFL, the Cardinals' 29-game skid still stands alone. It's the kind of record you only get through pure, uninterrupted failure stretched over multiple seasons. Most Super Bowl losses. Reaching the Super Bowl is supposed to mean you're one of the best teams in football, but for two franchises, it's also come with a side of heartbreak. Both the New England Patriots and the Denver Broncos have lost 5 Super Bowls, the most in NFL history. For the Patriots, the losses are scattered between dynastic success. They've won 6, but they've also had their fair share of brutal defeats, including 2 to the New York Giants, with one featuring the infamous helmet catch that crushed a perfect season. Their 5th loss came at the hands of the Eagles in Super Bowl 52, where a backup quarterback, Nick Foles, outdueled Tom Brady in one of the most unpredictable outcomes in Super Bowl history. The Broncos, on the other hand, have a Super Bowl resume loaded with blowouts. Before John Elway finally got over the hump in the late 1990s, Denver lost 3 Super Bowls by 17 points or more. The most painful came in Super Bowl 24, where they got steamrolled 55-10 by the 49ers, a record-setting blowout. Then came Super Bowl 48, where even with Peyton Manning at the helm, the Seahawks dismantled them 43-8. At some point, Broncos fans started treating Super Bowl appearances with equal parts hope and dread. Most consecutive Super Bowl losses. Reaching 1 Super Bowl is hard. Reaching 4 straight, nearly impossible, but somehow the Buffalo Bills pulled it off and lost every single one. From 1990 to 1993, the Bills became the first and only team in NFL history to lose 4 consecutive Super Bowls, and it's a run that still haunts Buffalo fans to this day. It all started with heartbreak in Super Bowl 25, where the Bills came this close to victory only to watch kicker Scott Norwood push the game-winning field goal wide right. That miss set the tone for what would follow. In Super Bowl 26, they were outclassed by the Washington Redskins, then came back-to-back Super Bowl thrashings at the hands of the Dallas Cowboys. First, a 52-17 blowout in Super Bowl 27, followed by a 30-13 loss the next year. 4 straight trips to the big game, 4 straight defeats. No team has come close to matching that combination of success and suffering. Lowest scoring Super Bowl. Super Bowl 53 had everything going for it. Big name quarterbacks, powerhouse franchises, national hype. But when the dust settled, fans were left watching one of the most boring championship games in NFL history. The final score, Patriots 13, Rams 3. Just 16 total points, the lowest combined total ever in a Super Bowl. For comparison, most Super Bowls end with both teams comfortably in the 20s or 30s. This one looked like a preseason scrimmage where neither team wanted to show their cards. There were punts, sacks, and field goals, but almost no fireworks. Jared Goff looked overwhelmed, Tom Brady looked mortal, and offensive coordinators across the league probably turned the game off out of secondhand embarrassment. To make matters worse, the broadcast ratings reflected the disappointment. With just over 98 million viewers, it was the least watched Super Bowl since 2008. Most turnovers in a Super Bowl. If you want a masterclass in how not to protect the football, look at the Buffalo Bills in Super Bowl 27. Facing the Dallas Cowboys, the Bills coughed up the ball an astonishing 9 times, the most by any team in a Super Bowl. Fumbles, interceptions, it was a full-blown turnover festival. Dallas didn't waste the opportunities either. They capitalized on nearly every mistake, turning the game into a rout. Final score, 52-17. The Bills were embarrassed on national TV, and their sloppy play became the defining image of the game. But that's not the only turnover disaster in Super Bowl history. Super Bowl 5, sometimes called the Blunder Bowl, featured a combined 11 turnovers, still the most between 2 teams in a single Super Bowl. The Colts turned the ball over 7 times and still managed to beat the Cowboys 16-13 on a last-second field goal. But for the Bills, who handed the game away all by themselves, there was no comeback, just humiliation. The only Super Bowl that didn't sell out. Nowadays, Super Bowl tickets are gold. Even nosebleeds go for thousands, and the stadium is packed to the rafters. But back in 1967, for Super Bowl I, the NFL's biggest game had a bit of a problem. Over 30,000 empty seats. Played at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, which seated about 93,000, the first Super Bowl, then called the AFL-NFL World Championship game, drew just under 62,000 fans. And this was despite a local television blackout that tried to force people to attend in person. So what went wrong? For starters, the event wasn't hyped the way it is today. There were two separate broadcast networks, NBC and CBS, awkwardly covering the same game. The halftime show featured a college marching band and a guy with a jetpack, and the tickets, which cost between $10 and $15, weren't seen as overpriced at the time. People in LA just weren't buying the hype, and many locals treated it like a random exhibition game. Biggest blowout in NFL history. Blowouts happen, but this was total annihilation. In the 1940 NFL Championship game, the Chicago Bears humiliated the Washington Redskins with a jaw-dropping 73-0 victory, the biggest blowout in NFL history, and a margin so wide it still feels unreal. Back then, George Halas's Bears had perfected the T-formation offense, and the Redskins simply had no answer. Touchdown after touchdown, drive after drive, the Bears poured it on. Washington couldn't move the ball, couldn't stop the bleeding, and by the time it was over, fans were stunned into silence. It was less of a football game and more of a ritual sacrifice. In the modern era, the biggest playoff blowout came in 2000 when the Jacksonville Jaguars crushed the Miami Dolphins 62-7, and in Super Bowl history, the record belongs to the San Francisco 49ers, who beat the Denver Broncos 55-10 in Super Bowl 24. But nothing compares to that 73-0 demolition. It's not just a loss, it's an NFL horror story, the kind of defeat that echoes across decades. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and turn on the notification bell so you can stay up to date with our recent posts. See you in the next video.